From the smallest hero to the biggest land, not a critic was silent, they still had films to pan. The sequels were scattered throughout the year as I rumbled in my D-Box and let out a cheer. Pixar wowed us like never before, but they dropped the ball with The Good Dinosaur. These 7th installments felt like a gift, while certain franchises need to desist. Older characters saw a great return, while others, seriously, should have been burned. Some things remain, so we won't call it a remake, but at least The Rock didn't die in an earthquake. Each secret agent dispatched their arch foe, but if you watch in 3D, don't get vertigo. It was sexy as hell when these heroes disrobed. Their films weren't great, but I never opposed. They had interesting concepts that gave us a peek, just be careful of dangers that prey on the weak. Time travel and acapella brought me a laugh, at least you're not helpless because of a gaffe. If you watched them all, it was a real delight. For those that didn't, this is Movie Night. Happy New Year and welcome to Movie Night. I'm your host, Jonathan Paula. Tonight, in part 1 of my second annual yearly retrospective, I'll be counting down my top 10 favorite movies of 2015. But first, let's take a look back at the 296 films I watched last year. Thanks to some marathon cramming in late December, 90 of those were new releases, a personal record for me. This is almost the same number of movies I rewatched, while 24 others were holdovers from 2014. I'm pleased to report none of those would have made last year's top 10 list. The remaining 93 films were older pictures I saw for the first time, including a number of American classics, most of which I adored. January 1st, 2016 marks the 10-year anniversary of when I began meticulously logging every film I watch. So if you're curious about a movie I don't include on tonight's list or to browse a decade of older film entries, please visit my Letterboxd profile. For now though, let's discuss 2015's best movies. At number 10 is the poignant Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, a delicately crafted teen dramedy that deals with friendship and cancer in a believable and heartwarming way. Some inspired Wes Anderson-style cinematography and great performances from the young cast make this a must-watch film, especially since it may have flown under your radar. One of 2 films on my list that had me crying, Furious 7 wasn't just an insane, stunt-filled, balls-to-the-wall, cars dropping out of airplanes, hot chicks in bikinis, skyscraper-destroying adventure. It was also a perfect memorial to the late Paul Walker, ending with an emotional drive into the sunset. I've enjoyed this franchise from the start and can't wait to see how they top themselves next, but for now it lands in my 9th spot. Speaking of 7th installments, Ryan Coogler's requel of the Rocky franchise gets my pick for number 8. Creed not only showed off the acting and punching prowess of up-and-coming Michael B. Jordan, but the incredible range of the aging Sylvester Stallone. A touching and inspiring film with great music and performances, this old dog still has a few new tricks. An excellent low-key and contained thriller, Ex Machina was an easy choice for the 7th best film of the year. Alex Garland's directorial debut is a sleek and fascinating look at what truly constitutes intelligence in an artificial mind. But it's the performances of Donald Gleason and Alicia Vikander that really propel this high-concept science fiction story to new heights. It's not often you see a decades-old formula reimagined in such a wonderful and enjoyable new way, but Kingsman: The Secret Service did just that with the spy genre. An explosively awesome time that remains appropriately uncivilized and modern, it's a breakout performance from Taron Egerton as a sexy special agent and an amazing Freebird massacre sequence that lands this film at number 6. Before we continue, let's take a look at the remaining films I rated a 9 out of 10 that didn't quite make my list. In no particular order, these honorable mentions are Spotlight, Boston Globe's sobering investigation into the church abuse scandal of the early 2000s. Being from the area and having a wife who used to work at that paper, this film and its strong performances definitely hit close to home, and it was very powerful emotionally. Quentin Tarantino has done it again with The Hateful Eight, transforming nearly 3 hours of talking heads into a tense and captivating drama, with plenty of violence to go around. Avengers: Age of Ultron. Not nearly as strong as its predecessor, this was still a hugely enjoyable time with some awesome and funny characters. The Walk. Seeing this in IMAX Laser 3D was an absolute experience, largely thanks to director Robert Zemeckis' vertigo-inducing cinematography and treatment, but it's the unspoken tribute to the fallen Twin Towers that really gave me goosebumps. Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. Tom Cruise continues to outdo himself with insane stunts, and hanging on the outside of a cargo plane in the cold open was one of my favorite moments of the year. Now though, for the movies I rated a 10 out of 10. Coming in at number 5 is Mad Max: Fury Road. What it lacked in character development and story, it made up for with its ridiculous carnage and beautifully choreographed stunts. Another requel that totally delighted, the 70-year-old George Miller has outdone himself with his fast and stylized barrage of action excitement. After years of anticipation, my pick for 4th best movie of 2015 totally lived up to the massive hype. Star Wars The Force Awakens wasn't just excellent fan service and outstanding visual effects, it serves as a rebirth of this classic franchise. J.J. Abrams successfully weaves retro elements and interesting new characters in a wonderfully fun adventure. The bronze medal position goes to Pixar's Inside Out. Parallel narratives examining the inner emotional struggles of a young girl's difficult life make for a bright and intriguing screenplay, but it's the music, characters, and gorgeous animation that make this such a lasting and powerful experience. Easily one of Pixar's best. My runner-up is The Revenant. Alejandro González Inarritu continues to impress with some absolutely astonishing cinematography, which not only shows off the beautiful and harsh wilderness of British Columbia, but the suffering Leonardo DiCaprio's character must endure. His grueling, tour de force performance might finally net him an Oscar, but Tom Hardy's portrayal of a vengeful and selfish villain shouldn't be overlooked either. It's an intense motion picture from start to finish that left me breathless and amazed. And finally, my pick for best movie of 2015 is The Martian. For the 3rd year in a row, my #1 film was a big-budget space drama. But what can I say, this film was nearly flawless. Matt Damon leads an all-star cast with a relatable and amusing portrayal of a man stranded alone on Mars for over a year. Seamless visuals, intelligent dialogue, and a believable script make this a real high watermark for modern science fiction. A brilliant masterwork, it was my favorite movie of the entire year. Despite an onslaught of sequels and familiar characters, 2015 was a great year for cinema, with dozens of box office records being broken in the process. But we're not done talking about them, so stay tuned to the Jogwheel channel for part 2 of my 2015 retrospective, where I'll be awarding superlatives and ranking the worst movies of the year. In the meantime, though, you can click this information icon if you'd like to hear my full reviews for some of the films in tonight's top 10 list. Until next time, my name is Jonathan Paula, thanks for watching, and have a good movie night.